Perfect. All right, so here we go. So this is a webinar for students, for parents and teachers, so that you know more about how to improve the speaking grades of your students for the A2 key test for schools. Specifically the speaking component. The A2 test has speaking, reading, listening and writing, has all four of the major skills, but today we're just going to be focusing on speaking and how to get better grades for your students, how to teach them in different ways and prepare them better and make them feel better about the course, about the test, and build confidence and build skills in a short period of time so that they improve and get a higher grade. So before we get going, I'm going to ask you all to go and get a pen and paper, because there's quite a few things to remember in this webinar, and it's going to be helpful for you to take notes. There's going to be stuff for you to jot down, URLs and whatnot. So go and grab a pen and paper if you can. Let's give you a few minutes or a few seconds. All right, so during this webinar, you may have questions that you want to ask and some things that you're not sure about. Try where you can to leave your questions for the end of the webinar. There's going to be a Q&A session, which is a good point because a lot of your questions might be answered later in the webinar. So it's a good point for you to ask at the end. There'll be a dedicated Q&A session. So if you've got some questions that you want to ask, just jot them down and we can cover that at the end. If there's something that you want to add or you want to say during the webinar, no problem at all. There's a little hand button, so you can click the hand button, your hand will raise and I'll see that and I'll be able to get to you. And if that's not working, just say, hey Stu, and just let me know. All right, so without further ado. Okay, so before we get going, a little bit about me. Many of you know me, some of you don't know me very well at all, so I'll just briefly introduce myself before we get going. So I've been teaching English for about 22 years. I started my teacher training in Brighton, that's where I'm from, in the UK, and then after that I came over as a fresh-faced 24-year-old teacher to China, not knowing very much and not being very good at the time, but in that time I've taught literally all ages, from kindergarten, primary, middle school, high school, university, business, aviation, special purposes. I've pretty much covered everything. I've been lucky enough to cover everything, and including a lot of exam prep. So that includes getting students ready for IELTS testing, TEFL testing, getting them ready to do exams, college entrance, interviews, and just getting students ready to go abroad to study. So doing this Cambridge A2 test is something I've done quite a lot of, including the PET test as well. I've written a couple of books for teachers. Some of you may have those already, like classroom games and activities. And I've also built a full teacher training course over a period of 4 years, which is fully accredited, and teachers are using that all over the world to go and find work. So that's pretty much me. What I'd like you to do, actually, in the chat box, if you can just type in a little bit how long you've been teaching or where you are, and who is it exactly that you're getting ready for the test. Is it your own children or is it your students? Yeah, just let us know and we can chat about that as we go. There's a chat box that you can use for that. All right, so this webinar, what are the objectives of this webinar. So the objectives of this webinar are to make you more confident to teach your children or your students and get them ready for the A2 key test. Okay, so I'm going to give a brief overview shortly about what the test is, why students take it, and just give you a bit more kind of rounded knowledge about what it is. We're going to look at the test structure, how it's structured, how the tasks are structured, task 1 and task 2. They're both quite different, and we're going to be looking in depth at both of those tasks and how the children that you teach can get higher scores within task 1 and within task 2. I'll be giving you tips of how you can do that and things that you can use at home or in the classroom to get your kids ready. I will look at the scoring of the A2 key test for schools, how it's scored, so you'll have a broader knowledge about this going into the test. We're going to be looking at a photo as well, and that should be quite fun. You should quite enjoy that, and that will get your mind kind of ready for the task 2 element. And finally, we'll be looking at additional help that you can give the children, resources you can use, videos you can check out, guides and different stuff. And I'll be sending you over some pretty cool freebies as well that will be useful, some links, some videos, and some like vocab guides and things like that. Again, we're going to end with a Q&A session, so please remember to write down any questions that you may have throughout this, and then we can go over that at the end. Or again, if you want to just ask straight away, that's cool as well. Okay, so A2, what does it mean? What's it about? Well, basically there's something called the CEFR. Now I'm going to move my little, there you go. The CEFR is a Common European Framework for Reference. So what is that? What is a CEFR? So basically around 1990, 1991, it became clear that there was no international standard for languages. Okay, so let's say, you know, my Chinese is okay. Some people think it's absolutely amazing. Some people think it's absolutely hopeless. But who's right? Is it amazing or is it hopeless? Or is it in the middle? Well, before the CEFR, we didn't really know. And the CEFR, the Common European Framework for Reference, which was made by a group of linguists in the early 90s, it can be used to grade your ability within any language. So let's say you are A1, which is a basic user. That means that you can ask and answer very simple questions about familiar topics to you. Nothing specialized at all. You can say your name, you can say hello, you can say your age, the hobbies that you like, the things you like, maybe some things that you can do. So this would mean that you're an A1 learner, whether that's in English, in German, in Portuguese, whatever. If you're an A1 learner, you can do that in that language. An A2 learner, and that's what we're looking at today, this is the A2 test. It's a little bit more difficult. The students will be able to do a little bit more than an A1 learner. They can simply describe aspects about their background, home, school, family, hobbies, with a little bit more in-depth, more vocabulary and more grammatical range. After A2, we move into B1 and B2, and this is independent user. Now, an independent user, just to give a nutshell, this is where you can watch a TV show in the target language, in English in this case, and kind of get the main gist of what's going on, what's being said. You'll be able to follow, even if you don't understand all of the language. You can kind of get it, what's going on. You can engage in conversations now. So instead of limited utterances, a sentence here, a sentence there, you can have a two-way kind of conversation and keep it going. You're able to express your opinion and describe experiences and events. And after the B1, you move into B2. You can have conversations on a wide range of topics now and give your viewpoint and discuss things in more detail. And again, B2 is not just for English, it's for any language. It's for Chinese, you can be B2 in Chinese. And it goes all the way up to C2, which is near native fluency. And the key word here is effortlessly. You can effortlessly discuss a huge range of topics using complex ideas and express yourself very well. And this will mean you're a C2 learner. And it takes thousands and thousands of hours to get there. From someone who's learning a language, it will take many thousands of hours to get to C2, if ever. You have to be very dedicated to get there. But the focus today is A2. This is where students will be doing a test to prove that they are able to produce simple language to describe background, home, hobbies, family, etc. And the thing with Cambridge, it's so standardised that it's the same test all around the world. So if you're Italian, a little later we're going to be watching a few videos about Italian students doing the A2 test. Whether you're Italian, whether you're Chinese, whether you are from Brazil, if you're doing the Cambridge A2 test for schools, it's the same test and it asks the same. It asks you to produce the same language, and if you can produce that, you get your certificate to say that you are an A2 user. Once you've done that, you can go beyond and start moving into PET. That's for B1 and B2 levels, and I'll probably do a webinar in the next couple of months about the PET levels as well. So that's it. That's the CEFR, why it was invented and adopted, and why it's so popular. It's a very good model, and it works for all languages. Okay, so let's have an overview of the A2 test for schools. It used to be called the KET test, KET. It's no longer called the KET. It's now called the A2 key test for schools. Okay. And it's part of the Cambridge English Qualifications, and it assesses the ability of school kids to communicate effectively in basic situations. And again, because it's Cambridge, it's a worldwide recognised university, one of the world's oldest, and they make qualifications for both students learning English and for teaching. So if you're an English teacher, you can do the famous CELTA qualification and Delta, which is a level 7 qualification. So they write a whole range of exams about language and about language teaching, very well recognised. And if your students have an A2 key test for school certificate, that will be recognised worldwide, and they'll be able to use that to prove their proficiency in any country. Now the test is face-to-face. It says you can have one student, but it's rare. It's very rare. Normally it's two. Expect 2 students to be interviewed by 2 examiners. So one of the examiners will be speaking and asking the questions and interacting with 2 students. The second examiner will just be listening, and what they're listening for is just language. And then at the end, once the students have finished the test, they exit the room. The 2 examiners can get their heads together and decide together what grade those students were. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll be able to get your children or your students a better outcome than they would before you had this webinar. So the whole speaking test takes around kind of 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. It won't go on for too long, just normally because the examiners have so many children to get through. They can't spend too much time. They've got a lot of students waiting outside. They have to get through everybody. So if it's dragging on, they will cut it. They'll wrap things up and then move on. And there's 2 parts. There's task 1 and task 2, and again we're going to be looking in detail at that quite shortly. Okay, so let's have a quick look at what the kind of what it looks like. Now we're going to watch the first 30 seconds of a video, and then we're going to come back to the video and look a little bit more, but it gives you an idea about the setup, the two examiners and the two students. So let's have a quick look.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can I have your mark sheets, please?
Yes.
Can everybody hear?
I'm Sandra, and this is Carrie. What's your name?
My name is Tommaso.
And what's your name?
My name is Greta.
How old are you?
I'm 13.
Where do you live?
I live in Corsico, a small town near Milan.
Thank you. How old are you, Tommaso?
I'm 13 too.
Where do you live?
I live in Bucinasco near Milan.
Thank you. Now, let's talk about food.
All right, so I'm just going to stop it there. We can watch the rest a little later, but this gives you an idea about what the test setup is like and what the students can expect. So they'll go in, two students together, facing two examiners. One of the examiner will be asking the questions, and the other person will just be observing and listening so that they can get as accurate as possible. So they can both get their heads together and make sure that the student gets the correct grade that they deserve. Okay, so two types of tasks. The first one is the interview. So this is where the examiner will ask questions to the students, and the students will take turns in talking about very familiar topics. These won't be specialized topics. It will never be like, you know, how does a car work, or, you know, something specialized. It will always be very familiar. That this is one thing that all language exams should have. It should be fair, no matter where you're from and what your background is. So it will only ask things that will be familiar to everybody. Food, shopping, school life, hobbies, things like this, things that will be international. And the second task will be working together, where you have maybe a picture or a series of pictures, and you need to talk and have a conversation, the two students together, about that picture. We'll look at that very soon. All right, so the interview. So this is the longer of the two tasks, and children will answer questions about themselves, the things that they like, the things that they don't like, daily routines, very, very simple A2 level language. And the focus is the ability to have good social exchange and interact well with the examiner. So when the student comes in, they'll be friendly, they will greet the examiner, and this will set a nice tone for the rest of the test, and the students will, you get graded on this. Your ability to interact well in a polite, friendly, positive and confident way, and you'll get higher marks for this. You actually get graded on that. So it's important to do. All right, so let's have a look at the scoring before we go on to looking at the tips. How is it scored, basically? How is the A2 test scored? All right, so you've got four different components. You've got speaking, writing, listening and reading, and there'll be a separate test for each of those four skills. The students get their grade, those grades are added together, and that combined grade will give you your overall score for the A2 test. Now, in order to pass, you must get at least 120 points, okay? Anything under that, then this is A1, and you haven't passed the test. You're not going to earn the certificate. After all of those combined reading, writing, listening and speaking together, if you get between 120 and 132, you are A2, you've passed, well done, and you have gotten a grade C. If you do a little bit better and you get between 133 and 139, then you get a grade B. And if you do very well and you get between 140 and 150 marks, then you get a grade A, and you're really pushing your way towards B1. You can see that also here. Grade C, between like 120, kind of 133, 132, grade B, and then finally grade A, and that pushes you up into B1. Okay, so this is where we're going to start talking about what your students can do and how you can get your students ready to get a better speaking mark. How to introduce yourself confidently. And remember, this is part of what is actually being graded as well. So you're going to greet the examiner. And this will set the tone for the rest of the speaking test. So make sure your students are friendly, they're smiling. Make sure they say hello and, ask the examiner how they are. Just be very, very friendly and enthusiastic about doing the course. And this is something you can practice, right? You can have like kind of role plays before the big day. It's important that you get your students used to these test conditions, what it's going to be like, role play that situation so that they can go in there and they feel much better for the big day. They're going to be able to express themselves better. Now, the first thing, okay, state your name and where you're from. Now, let's say my name's Stuart and I'm from Brighton. This is my city. They could say, hello, could you introduce yourself? I could say, yes, hello, my name's Stuart, I'm from Brighton. Now, that's okay, but how could it be better? How about something like, hi, my name's Stuart, I'm from Brighton. Brighton is in the south of England and it's famous for art and music. Okay, so I've answered the question, but I've given a little bit more language. I've been a bit more enthusiastic and I've showed the examiner I can do a bit more. So get all of your students, rather than saying, for example, my name is Zhang Hao, I'm from Beijing. They can say, hello, my name's Zhang Hao, I'm from Beijing, the capital of China, famous for the Great Wall and the Forbidden City, for example. Okay, and that immediately, you're going to get a pop straight away. You're going to score higher marks for being able to do that. And it just sets a good tone for the rest of your speaking test. It's going to impress the examiner. The examiner has already, the student has come in smiling, said hello, been very warm, and then said, yeah, hi, I'm from Beijing, capital of China, famous for the Great Wall and the Forbidden City. Straight away, the examiner's on your side and you've already got higher marks. Be enthusiastic and show enthusiasm. Importantly, provide more information. Okay, try to expand. Instead of saying one sentence, try to say 2 or 3. Always expand on what you're trying to give. Show them your language ability. And if you show a good English language ability, you're going to get the A2, you're going to pass the test, and you instead of getting a C, you're going to be hitting a B, and you're going to get a higher mark for your speaking. Speak clearly, and importantly, practice. Make sure you're practicing doing this test. If you're just doing grammar exercises and listening exercises and writing exercises, that's okay, and it's important that students do that. But actually practice having the test. There's no, I forgot the word for it, but there's nothing better than you can do for having that. Just make sure you're practicing. We're going to talk about doing this later. Find a practice partner. Find somebody who your student can practice with. They can practice talking about the photos, talking together. You can do role play. Find a practice partner. It would be very, very important. Make sure, however, it's concise. Don't ramble on and on and on and on about where you're from. Make it short, concise. You're going to have time within task 1 and task 2 to really show what you've got. For the moment, just expand a little bit and then you can really show what you've got a bit later on in task 1 and task 2. All right, so these are some common topics and kind of questions that you may have. Now, again, you're never going to be asked, a student is never going to be asked something that they don't know anything about. They'll never be asked anything technical. It will always be very, normal for all people to be able to talk about. Shopping, everybody goes shopping. Everyone's been shopping. You're able to discuss this. An example of a shopping question might be, what was the last thing that you bought? Do you like to go shopping in a small shop, or do you like to go to the mall? Why is that? Very, very basic things that you're able to do. Talking about travel and holidays. Where do you like to go on holiday? What kind of things do you like to do? What was your favourite holiday? These are questions that anybody can answer, and importantly, these are all kind of topics that you know are likely to come up, and you can practice these. So get your students to practice talking about shopping, to practice talking about travel and holidays, food and drink, because these are the type of topics that are going to come up. Now, you don't know what's going to come up, but it's very likely if you practice 10 or 15 common topics like the ones on the screen right now, if you've practiced all of them, it's likely that one of them is going to be one of the ones that you have practiced. So you're going to be ready, your students are going to be ready, and they're going to be able to give better responses. And also you can get ready with good vocabulary about each of these things as well. So you can get your kind of answers kind of semi-remembered. So you're ready to go for the big day. So we're going to we're going to continue watching the video, and we're going to watch task 1 about the interview. So listen out for grammar. Listen out, importantly, you're going to hear the students correct themselves. Some of the, both Tommaso and Greta, they're Italian students, they make grammatical mistakes, but they do a good thing. They correct themselves. And so the examiner will know that they understand the grammar, they understand the rules, they may have missed it, but they were able to self-correct. And again, that this will get them higher marks. So teach your children that if they make a mistake and they know that they've mistake, encourage them to self-correct. And again, you're going to climb on your speaking scores. Let's have a check. Let's check it out. You'll see what I mean.
I'm 13.
Where do you live?
I live in Corsica, a small town near Milan.
Thank you. How old are you, Tommaso?
I'm 13 too.
Where do you live?
I live in Bucinasco near Milan.
Thank you. Now, let's talk about food. Tommaso, what did you have for lunch yesterday?
Yesterday I had pasta with clams and
What time do you usually have breakfast?
I usually had breakfast at 7:10.
Greta, what do you usually eat after school?
I usually eat pasta and meat.
Who cooks your meals?
My grandma cooks.
Now, Tommaso, please tell me something about what you like to eat with friends.
With my friends, I like to eat pizza and hamburger or panzerotti.
Do you and your friends go to restaurants?
No.
Now let's talk about clothes.
Okay, so you'll notice there that they self-corrected. But Tommaso there, he missed a trick. The lady said, do you like to go to restaurants to eat with your friends? And Tommaso said, no. Now, what would have, of course, been better if he had said, no, I don't often eat at restaurants with my friends. It's a bit too expensive. Or I don't have much time because I have too much homework to do. So this would have been a better answer. So always try to expand, avoid saying yes or no. Always try to give a little bit more information, really prove to the examiner that you've understood the question. you're able to respond appropriately, and you are able to expand on your ideas and your thinking with more language. So avoid the yes and no, always try to expand. Okay, so part 2, this is the collaborative task, okay? So in the collaborative task, this is where you will be talking with the other student who's also doing the test, and you'll be discussing a photo or discussing a series of pictures and having a conversation about them. And this is where you can really show what you can do. But also remember that language is a social thing. You know, not many people talk to themselves, right? So when you're talking, it's always to somebody or with a group of people in a social situation. And this is how language is used, and it's part of the grading here. So Cambridge, what they want to see is that a student is able to use language appropriately in a social situation with another person. And so what they do, they get students to discuss a photo, and they take turns and they ask each other questions, and they work together to negotiate meaning and to reach a mutual understanding. Okay, so we're going to play a little game right now. Okay, I'm going to show you a photo, and this is a photo of a lady shopping. Okay, so think about where she is shopping. Look at what she is shopping for, and think about, if I was to give you this photo, what could you talk about? How could you expand on what to say? What small details can you look for that you could possibly discuss about the photo? Okay, think about what she's wearing, think about what she's buying, why she's buying it, for what occasion. So many different things that you can pick out. Anyway, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to look at the photo, write it down, and then I want you to put in the comment box, in the chat box, your ideas, okay? Okay, so that's the photo. Okay, so if you've got any ideas, you can call it out, or you can type it into the chat box. We've got a chat box here. Any ideas? Put your ideas of what you can talk about into the chat box, or you can call them out if you want to as well. Any ideas? What could you talk about in this photo? What things could you say about this photo? Okay, so we've got our yep. So shopping's the type of food that the lady's picking out, right? Yes, she's got a shopping list in her hand. What could be on the list? What other things might she need? So yep, she's in the supermarket. That's the type of place. Maybe she's buying snacks. Perhaps she's going on a picnic, yeah? Summer's coming, picnic time. Any other ideas? You'll notice that she's not the only person in the photo. So it's a good opportunity to talk about the other people. What are the other people doing? Now, in this photo, you've got things that you could say. You've got like shopping trolley, shopping basket. Yep, in the supermarket, shopping trolley, shopping basket. She's got a shopping list. Yeah, Yeah, that's it. That's right, Apple. Yeah, maybe she's, you know, you can expand and really like kind of think outside the box. Why is she in the supermarket? Maybe she's looking for some milk to take home for the baby, right? And then you can like, you know, take it away from the supermarket. So there's so many things you can talk about. Yes, door card, correct. Like I think that man is talking to a member of staff. Maybe he's looking for a particular item that he can't find. The member of staff is telling him which aisle to go to. Maybe he's asking for some product information about something in his trolley. There's so much stuff here that you could talk about. You can talk about what she's wearing, what she looks like, how many people are in there, and try to expand things from what you see. And this is something that you can train your own students to do, is be able to look at pictures and from the pictures pull out clues. You can brainstorm, write ideas on the board before you do the test. When you're practicing, show a photo, get some ideas out on the board, write all of the ideas out on the board, then get them to sit down and practice the speaking. And then so you're giving them the linguistic resource to be able to talk about the photo, and you're developing their learning and study habits to be able to look at a photo, glean some information from the photo that could be useful, put it onto the board as a linguistic resource that they can refer to, then get your students into pairs and they can start practicing doing the test. And then on the day of the test, when they get a photo or they get a series of photos, they're able and used to and very ready to look at the pictures, get that information out, and then they've got more to say. They're better prepared and they're going to get a higher mark in their speaking test. So it's a very good thing that you can practice. All right, so some good resources. So you might want just get your phone out, take a picture of this link or jot it down on your paper. This link is from the Cambridge English website. It's got tons of resources and printable stuff and videos, audio, reading activities, writing activities, all that good stuff is link. So if you're getting your students prepared for the A2 key test for schools, this is your go-to link, and it's going to have tons of stuff on there for you. Lots of practice materials. So let's have a quick look at that website, and I can okay, so this is that website. Okay, so you've got essentials for teachers. So if you're a teacher, this is a good place for you. You can learn more about the test. It'll give you tips and things to find out about the exam so you can tell your students. Here you've got resources. So it's perfect if you're looking for vocab guides, kind of PowerPoints, things like this. It's all there, okay? And over here you've got things for learners. And on this site as well, you've got a ton of social media things, free online activities, other webinars that you can join, loads of really good stuff. And you've got like lots of videos and stuff, and you can, really use this website to get your students prepared. Okay, let's move that up. Okay, so in the speaking test, the examiners will be listening out for 3 different components. Okay, the first component is grammar and vocabulary. How well that they can use grammar. Do they have a wide range of vocabulary? Do they keep saying the same kind of adjectives for everything, or is there can they demonstrate a good range of vocabulary that's kind of useful for the topic that they're on? Okay, so this is the first thing that students will be marked on. The second thing is pronunciation. How well are your students pronouncing their words? Are they clear? Are they understandable? And the third thing is their interaction. How well do they interact with the examiner, and how well do they interact with the other student? And this is also assessed as well. But let's quickly have a look at grammar and vocabulary. How to expand vocabulary. This is always pretty tricky, right? Now, you could give long lists of vocabulary, but that's been proven not to be very useful. It might work well in the short term, but long term it won't work really that well. Try to get the students using the words, get them to practice using the words. That's the most important thing. It's been found that vocabulary is best learned when there's repeated exposure to the words. So ask your students to keep a diary. This could be a small pocketbook, and they write down words that they enjoy, words that are connected to a particular topic, words that they've learned for that day. Write it in their little diary, and every day, just for 5 minutes, just flick through the diary, and then that will give them repeated exposure and repeated, importantly, encounters. Give your students more encounters with the vocabulary. The more encounters they have, the more likelihood that they're going to be able to use that vocabulary, okay? Practice and encounters, that's the most important thing. If you want to, you can get them to write down on the phone. You can take picture dictionaries, so most students have a phone. They can take a photo to do like a photo dictionary and make a folder in their phone for that. Tons of different ways. Make it fun for learners. Make it interesting that they want to learn this vocabulary. Enroll on the course. There's tons of online teachers that can help. Tons of English courses, and that will give them additional practice, especially with grammar and using structures and speaking as well. So these are all things that you can do. Okay, so pronunciation, how to improve pronunciation. Well, there's a couple of different ways. The number one way, I think, well, not number one, is a really useful way, is to record yourself. So you can you can read something or talk about something to someone. Just get your phone, record it. Later on, you can listen back to yourself. And it's surprising what you realise, some of your pronunciation errors that you didn't know that you made. And it's only by listening back can you really realise that, right? And it's a cool thing to do. If you're a teacher and you record the students speaking and then you play it back, it's quite a novel, fun activity in the classroom that students, or I've done it many times, students always enjoy it and they find it useful. So record yourself. Another way is to listen to something and write it down. Okay, so the students are really practicing their listening, they're writing down what they hear, but through listening, when they go to use the word themselves, it actually helps to improve their own pronunciation, even though they're not producing anything while they write. It's all receptive. But you can turn that receptive skills into production in the way that you speak, and you'll see a pop of improvement of your pronunciation through listening and writing. Focus on tricky words. So are there any words that you commonly struggle with? A common one for Chinese students is usually. Okay, and in the A2 test, you're going to probably need to say usually because you're going to be asked about habits. So it can be quite a difficult word for Asian students to say, usually. So practice saying this, practice saying it well, and practice the words that you're likely to be using as well. So use your time constructively to improve your pronunciation because it's worth 1/3 of your marks. And finally, again, speaking and then checking on what you're saying. Listen, speak, check all of the time, and this will improve your pronunciation as well. So that's the second part of the speaking grading. First is grammar and vocabulary. The second part is pronunciation. And the third part is your interactive communication. Do you interact well using the language? Okay. So how can you improve this exactly? So you can watch some of the videos that are on that link. If you have YouTube, there's tons of key tests, speaking stuff on YouTube. There are other video platforms that also have it as well. So make sure that you're watching lots of videos, critique it, stop it, examine what's going on, and this will help with the interaction. But importantly, get a study partner. You know, if a student can get another friend that's also doing the test, get them to work together, get them to practice together, get them to work on the vocabulary together, and they will motivate each other and they will enjoy the process of getting better. And on the big day, they're going to be able to perform better. They're going to know more vocabulary. Their grammar is going to be better. Their confidence is going to be better. They're going to know more about the test when they walk in. They're going to understand what the test is for, what they need to do, and that will result in a better speaking score. Absolutely. So get a study partner. Start thinking now who that could be, because it will really help your students. All right, so are there any, that's it, basically. That's it, a whistle-stop tour of the key A2 key test for schools. Are there any questions that you may have? And now's the time where we can talk about it. You can just ask me yourself, or if you want to, you can type it into the chat box. Hi, I can't hear you very well. Maybe just type it into the chat box if your mic's not working very well. Does anybody have any questions about part 1 or part 2, or ways that you can improve certain skills that I might be able to answer for you? All right. Well, if there's no questions, what I'm going to do, I'm going to send all of you a few links so that you have those links on your phone. I'll also send over some documents for you, like vocab guides, study guides, and some kind of useful stuff, I hope, that you can use with your students. Okay. Yeah, any questions before we wrap things up? Oh yes, Joe, would you mind sharing the PowerPoint with us? No problem at all. I can send that over. Yeah, good idea. I'll send over the PowerPoint as well. Any other questions? Cool. Well, I hope you found that useful. I hope that's given you some practical things that you can actually do in the class with your students. I think the number one thing to remember is get your students a study partner. Be practicing actually doing the test so they're used to it. And yeah, just get them to, yeah, how can I enlarge students' word list in the short time? It's tough. It is tough how to increase students in a very short time. Just encounters. Give your students a list, a vocab list. If you learn the vocab list in a short time, if you cram it in just for a day or two before the test, this will have an effect. It will have an effect, but it won't have a long-term effect. You'll find that the student after the test will forget most of those words. So although you can cram in vocabulary lists. It does have some benefit, but not much. Certainly not much long term. You need to be getting your students to use it in meaningful ways, and collocate your words as well. So instead of like, for example, instead of having like shopping, you could use it with other chunks of language like lots of shopping, heavy shopping, expensive shopping. And by doing that, by collocating words and putting language chunks together, that also has an effect on vocab acquisition and recall as well. So that will help. Yeah, so anyway, I hope that was useful. Get your students to work together with a partner, get them used to the test situation, basically make them feel relaxed and confident to be there and enthusiastic. Expand. If I could tell you the most important thing from this webinar is get your students to expand on what they're going to say. For example, you know, can you cook? Instead of saying yes, say, yes, I can cook, but not very much. I can just cook a few dishes. Something like that, short, sweet, but expansion. And that will help. Sorry, I missed that last question. Sorry, would you mind putting that question in again? Because I kind of, it flashed up. Ha! No, it was the same. What's the best way for students to remember vocabularies? Very similar, just get them more encounters and get the students to actually use the language. And make sure it's relevant. Make sure you're teaching them relevant language for what they need. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope that you've enjoyed that. I think I'm going to be doing another webinar in a week or two, maybe on writing or on reading strategies for the A2 test. So if you've enjoyed that one, you're very much welcome to the next one. And thank you very much. If there's any questions that you've got, you can always message me. You've got my contact. You can just message me privately. I'll be very happy to talk to you and you know, get you the information that you need. All right, but that's it, everybody. Thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your evening. All right, thank you very much.